Okay, let's
go into the real combine.
Let's get into what we look for in the combine, players we're looking for in the combine. Mm-hmm. I've got some breaking measurables for you. As we put the draft board together at edge defender, we said, okay, it's Nick Bosa, number 1. It's Josh Allen, number 2 from Kentucky. The next group was FSU's Brian Burns, Florida's Ja'Kai Polite, Clemson's Cleveland Farrell. Cleveland Farrell. I screw it up every single time.
It's
Cleveland.
Cleveland sounds like it should be a name too.
Cleveland. I mean, I also said Cleve Wolford. So, look, I got it. It's Cleveland. I got Cleveland. We've got measurables for Brian Burns and Ja'Kai Polite. Have you seen them yet?
I have, actually.
Oh, this isn't breaking.
Very, very pleased. But break it to me. Break it to their audience.
Okay, Brian Burns. The weight was the big question because a lot of these guys, they've got the pop, or the explosiveness to get to the outside, but can they win with some power? 249 pounds. Almost 6'5", height-wise, arm 33 and 7/8. So the 249 pounds, when we thought it could have been as light as 235, 240.
Yeah,
that's good.
Good. I will say he probably chugged 4 to 5 gallons of water this morning before going up on that stage. I heard a story that someone had to run from the stage where they were being measured in because they had to go to the bathroom. Probably because they had just chugged so much water. Because, I mean, when you know you're undersized, you know that number, you just have to get to a point. He probably wanted to get to 250. 250 would have looked nice on a piece of paper. 249, still good enough, in my opinion. And, again, he's still young to wear, and with the frame, to wear 5 to 10 more pounds over the course of the rest of the offseason. Not crazy. And
then Ja'Kai Polite, 6'2" and 5/8", 258 pounds. I think he looks a little bit lighter on film in general, so being a 258, solid.
It's a very good way for him.
32 and 5/8 inch arms. Do you care about arm length at all?
Yes,
edge
I do.
defenders, not so much him, but with edge defenders in general.
Yeah, it does. It definitely matters. I wrote an article actually earlier this week about Jonah Williams, and when you have that length advantage, it's like a boxer. When you have the ability to reach farther than the other guy, the chances of you landing that first punch, getting the first contact, is bigger. So if you have the reach advantage, guys like Montez Sweat, Charles Omenihu have long reaches, it's just going to help you in terms of you don't have to be as crisp with your hands when you have that length advantage. And I will say this, though, going back to Brian Burns versus someone like Leonard Floyd at the Combine, who had very similar profile to Burns in terms of size, arm length, but Floyd chugged all that water, only got to 244. That's when it's concerning, is when you're chugging all that and you still can't get to a weight. So that means he was probably playing in the 230s realistically. And that to me is when it's too small. Are
you adjusting for everyone water weight wise? Are you just assuming everybody that needs to add weight is just 5 pounds inflated?
I do think so. And also, it's important to remember that the density matters as well. So 250 at Burns' weight is a lot different Burns' height, is a lot different than 258 or whatever at Polite's height, which Polite's 6'2", Burns almost 6'5".
You want to get under.
That's just different body types right there. So Polite, very good weight for him. Burns still on the small side. That's a little concerning.
Currently, we've got Burns and Polite very close. Burns then Polite in the first round on our big board, Farrell lower. Does that do anything for you?
I think, no, that's good. If it was lower than that, if he came in the low 240s, that would have been concerning.
Okay, great. And again, we also come from the perspective of all of this stuff should essentially come up on film.
Yes.
If you can't win with power, and this is something we're looking into quite a bit. We have the data with these edge defenders. Do they win outside, inside, or with a bull rush? And looking back through the years, even the guys that had a good college grade rushing the passer, if they didn't do it with a bull rush, they haven't translated to the NFL. We'll try to look into that
Brian
data
Burns,
further.
Though. That's a lot of that is Brian Burns, not a lot of bull rushes.
So that's a concern.
Yes.
This was what Vic Beasley was like. This is what Leonard Floyd was like. And I know Floyd has had some pressures over the last couple of years, but as far as like one-on-one wins in PFF grade, it's not there. It's not there for a top 10 type of pick, whereas the Myles Garretts and Joey Bosa's, who have definitely translated, can win anyway. Yeah. They could in college, and they can still in the NFL.
I do feel like Brian Burns, though, someone like Yannick Ngakoue is probably a good comparison in terms of that's the way Yannick Ngakoue wins. He's not a bull rusher, was not at Maryland either. So if that it sometimes hits, I think that's his sort of projection if you're going to the NFL, and I think he was a better run defender than Ngakoue as well.
It's a good job pulling that out.
Yes.
Because Ngakoue was he was the outlier, the guy that did not win with power in college, even according to the numbers, not just your perception. All right, speaking generally here, we don't care a whole lot about the O-line workouts.
Yes.
I don't think.
There's just so little correlation. Probably your best correlations are with agility drills in offensive line. If you're really poor on the sort of the shuttle,
that's really chicken or the egg, man.
If you're really poor in the shuttle, it's also going to show up on tape. Though you're going to look slow in pass protection.
Yeah, the best players are probably move well.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
is what I would say.
Yeah, and I think it's also a lot of it is there's a lot of just fat guys in college that can play at somewhat of a high level in college because of, if you're just big, a lot of times you can play offensive line well in college because of just no one else is the athleticism of the defensive line. But to really play at a high level, you still need the athleticism and it still shines through.
All right, let's touch on Jonah Williams really quickly because there's a few guys when their measurables were announced. Kyler Murray, one of them. Jonah Williams, one of them. A lot of people had takes. They had opinions.
Yeah.
So Jonah Williams, the talk coming into the NFL Combine and this entire process, very good left tackle at Alabama, but some teams are looking for him to play guard because of short arms. What did he come in at?
33 and 5/8 inches. And if you just go through, a lot of people say 34 is the cutoff. I think more realistically, if you're going to have a cutoff, 33 is where pretty much every good tackle, the vast majority of good tackles in the NFL are 33 plus. So there's still some that are coming under, but 33 plus, you get guys like Joe Staley, David Bakhtiari, all, Brian Bulaga, all in the 33 to 34 range.
I don't know where those 34.
I don't know where 34 came from either. That has been repeated a few times this offseason, but 33 seems more, if you're going to have one, under 33, there's not a lot.
Yeah, I've seen 33 called the cutoff. Mm-hmm. Which kind of makes sense. And not a whole lot of guys are coming in under that anyway. But I've seen 33 as the cutoff. If you use 34 as the cutoff randomly, then you're missing out on David Bakhtiari, Mitchell Schwartz, Teron Armstead's right at 34, Dwayne Brown, Jason Peters, Brian Bulaga, Kelvin Beachum, Jake Matthews. I mean, it's nonstop.
Yes.
So Jonah Williams is right in line with a bunch of guys who have played really well.
Yeah.
And he's good at football. He's a tackle.
Exactly.
The only way he would not be a tackle is if he goes to a team that has two tackles and he plays guard, which is fine. That's a strategic move. That's not let's make him a guard.
Exactly.
Case closed. You wrote this on the website?
Yeah,
yes?
And I mean, you go back and watch just the amount of time. So you worry about it. Again, I kind of touched on it. The length disadvantage, that's when it'll show up, is when the defensive line has long arms, gets into your pads first. That's when you worry about it. Well, he went up against Cleveland Farrell in the national championship game. A lot of long arm rushes, a lot of bull rushes from Farrell. Not a single one resulted.
But there was one play that Cleveland made Jonah look bad, and everybody tweeted it.
And
so
that one had nothing to do with arm length, though, either, because it literally was because Farrell trips into Jonah, causes him to trip, and they both run back into the quarterback.
It's very awkward. I will repeat the one thing about length that I heard from an offensive line coach recently I heard a couple of years ago, where he focuses on if the D lineman can get his hands on the O lineman's pads, right? If you do that too often, then it's either a technique issue or an arm length issue. It's something with the offensive lineman. It's a bad thing. So he would almost just using analytics, just straight count it. How often does that happen? And the best guys, they just don't let that happen.
Well, you don't even let them get the hand placement you don't let them into your chest to begin with. You knock that hand away before it even starts. That's your best bet to do.
I like the idea of just straight up counting it, which is great. All right, let's get to some other general players we're looking at. Do you want to discuss wide receiver?
I think that's the most.
Receivers?
That position is where the testing is going to separate the most in terms of our draft board, make the biggest difference in terms of the guys that they're testing. Because there's so many guys in a similar mold in terms of 6'3" to 6'5"-ish. The bigger receivers, larger contested catch guys. There's so many of them. Which ones are actually athletic? Which ones are actually have some speed down the field? Which ones actually have some change of direction ability? Which ones are stiff? Which ones are probably not going to be able to create separation at the NFL level? Because it's just difficult when you talk about college cornerbacks being able to correctly predict how that separation will translate to the NFL, because so many just aren't good. So you say, this double move that N'Keal Harry ran against this corner, look at him just burn him. Well, that's a college corner who might never play a snap in the NFL. He might have gotten burned by every single wide receiver he saw a double move against.
You have to also know the context of what happens with a double move.
Yes.
Double moves sometimes work only because the corner is keying a three-step drop, a quick drop by the corner. It has nothing to do with the receiver. It's the cornerback's technique looking at the QB more than anything. So you can't always give proper credit to the receiver. So the receiver class, you've been all over J.J. Arcega-Whiteside saying he needs more hype. When you do watch him on film, he looks a little stiff running his routes. But here's my question. Last year, you have Calvin Ridley, who does terribly at all of the agility drills. But he was the best route runner in the class last year. Because route running is not necessarily how quick you're in and out of your breaks. That's a part of it. The part where Ridley, I think, made up for it was his ability to manipulate cornerbacks. Arcega-Whiteside, I think, makes up for it with some of the best releases off the line of scrimmage than any other receiver. So even if he doesn't have great agility drills, is he still going to end up in the first round for us where he is now?
I don't think he's going to get drafted in the first round, but I do think, one, he's going to have a better 40 time than a lot of people expect. People project him in the 4.6s. I expect him to be low to mid 4.5s because I just think there were some plays on tape where he separates from cornerbacks just with pure speed down the field. And like you said, I'm surprised he isn't getting more hype because of how good his releases are at the line of scrimmage. That's usually the last thing to come around for receivers because they just don't see a ton of press coverage. He saw some press man, and he torched it consistently as good, if not better, than any other wide receiver in this class, which to me, that's a very important. That means he's going to translate to the NFL. All those skills are going to go right away to the NFL. He's not going to have this sort of learning curve that we've seen from a lot of guys who come from spread systems who never get punched in the mouth at the line of scrimmage. He's already done that. He's already shown he can do that. So I think he's a safe projection in that, but might not have the perceived upside of some of the other wide receivers in this class.
DK
but
Metcalf.
I think he's what you see is what you get with him at this point.
The other thing
I like because we always talk about the risk aspect. I don't think he's that risky of a prospect for that reason.
And the thing I like about Arcega-Whiteside, we also say, look, if the only thing you talk about a guy is contested catches, which we're not for him, he is excellent at contested catches, but I think he does it two ways. I think he does it with boxing out and using his body, but also with body control. So there's a couple different ways to win. You just win by rebounding, or you can win by adjustments and just making great catches.
Well, and it's tracking the ball down the field. He is getting in a better position than the cornerbacks are at the catch point. And that box out thing was a great example of it. He didn't even have to have. He didn't even have to box out perfectly every time, but he would get to the spot where the ball was going to be in the air. He would just get himself enough and then make the play.
What about A.J. Brown? Have we gone full circle on him? There was a point where he was our number one wide receiver based off of his production. Then there was a point where it's like, all right, he's got a lot of easy plays coming out of the slot at Ole Miss, and now we're probably going to move him back up the draft board just a little bit.
I think what helped him a ton, in my eyes at least, maybe in some other evaluators, I'm not sure, but the fact that DK Metcalf went down and he replaced that role in the offense, so he went into the Metcalf role, he started being that outside receiver instead of full-time slot, which he was at the beginning of the year. Outside receiver, full route tree, and he separated far better than even Metcalf did at the intermediate level on that route tree. He ran slants and digs, deep, intermediate posts. He was getting separation consistently against cornerbacks, and he weighed in almost as much as DK Metcalf did. 226 at just about 6'1" is a horse of a wide receiver, and so I think he's going to test well too in terms of speed, agility. So at 6'1", 226, there's not a lot of receivers built like that in the NFL, and not a lot of cornerbacks can physically match up with that at the breaks of routes with his sort of athleticism.
What about separating Andy Isabella and Marquise Brown?
Marquise Brown, 166. Now, some of that might be Liz Frank injury recovery like Jalen Smith's was when he came in at 219, I think, at the Combine.
How bad is the injury?
After surgery, after surgery, you lose weight just because you can't work out. You can't keep that sort of mass on when you're a world-class athlete. So that is a little concerning. I didn't expect him to be 190. Andy Isabella came in at 188, so that's a good weight for him, even though he's not even 5'8" or whatever there. So that one's a tough separation for me. I have Isabella ahead just because I think that, again, he can hold up on the outside with his size a little bit better. But Marquise Brown, to me, when I was watching his tape, reminded me a lot of Deshaun Jackson. That's about the weight that Deshaun Jackson came in at the Combine. So it's like if he remind you of a guy that came in at the same weight, you can't double count. You can't count that against them at that point.
Yeah, don't double count. Can't double count all of these things.
You knew he was going to be small.
Ed Oliver's going to crush it from an agility and athleticism standpoint. We can't double count it. Any other receivers where you think the testing is important, or just what we've been reviewing recently is either something good for them or concerning? Yeah.
So then, like I said, the big wide receivers. Preston Williams, Akeem Butler, N'Keal Harry. I guess Preston Williams not here. Sorry, Akeem Butler, N'Keal Harry, Kelvin Harmon. All those guys on the bigger end, all have concerns about high-level athleticism, being able to get open down the field consistently like you have to in the NFL. You can't just you just can't rely on always making contested catches down the field. You have to separate at some point. All those guys I have concerns about, which one's the best athlete, because that might be the separator for me at the end of the day.
All right. It's very deep wide receiver class. How many guys do we have? We're looking at 12 guys currently with top 3 round grades. Right now in our current evaluations, there's still more to do, more work to do on the wide receiver class, but as of now, and that includes guys like N'Keal Harry and Kelvin Harmon and Hakeem Butler, who others might like as high as the first or second round, that we have a little bit lower.
Yeah, not in our top 50.
A little bit lower.
Not
Mike.
in our top 50 at this point.
Focused on separation.
Yes.
The big key that we're focused on more and more, because that is what wins at the NFL level. Do we want to talk interior D-line?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Because that is probably, that along with edge and maybe offensive tackle, the deepest position in terms of just high-level talent in this draft. That, guys who are going to step in right away, start for your football team.
We've got Ed Oliver, who actually weighed in more than Draymond Jones. Was not expecting that.
Draymond's was a bad number. 282 is a bad number at his size, almost 6'3". That's just, that is officially tweener type of weight at that point.
I didn't think he looked slight on film, but that's slight. Ed, I was expecting, all the rumors for Ed Oliver were that he was about 270 to 273 during the season.
Yeah.
So, how much do you truly focus on this number? How much is the water weight, like you said? How much is it like, all right, I'm just going to put weight on. I'm just doing it because that's what I need to do. But the playing weight's still more comfortably 12 to 15 pounds lighter. It's tough to gauge. But weighing in at 287 was a big deal for Ed Oliver. The arm length for an interior defensive lineman, definitely well below.
Yes, under 32-inch arms for Ed Oliver is the bigger number there for me if I'm picking between the two. I would have rather he came in at 275 with 34-inch arms, which obviously is, you can't change your arm size, but the arm length there is an issue because it just, again, it defines interactions when you don't have big arms, and especially him who doesn't have big arms and was not good with his hands to begin with.
But he's gonna win with quickness off the ball.
Yes.
And more moves, quick hand moves rather than, trying to win with length. I mean, that's how you have to get the best out of him, correct?
Yeah, but again, length also helps with a lot of different things. Helps with bull rushes, helps keep offensive linemen at bay, and bull rush with his explosiveness should be partially, should be his calling card. So you like the weight, but what does the love to see the arms bigger? But now it's just, if he tests off the charts, I still think you're checking that box. So if you put on this weight, still runs a 4.6 something, you're going to be all right with that arm size.
What about Jerry Tillery coming in at 6'6 plus, but under 300? I was surprised at that.
That doesn't bother me whatsoever. I think if you, like, my comp for him was Chris Jones, who actually, I believe, lost weight this past year and had a career year. You don't have to be, when you have that sort of length, it's obviously going to matter against double teams, but pass rushing is key first. You can rush the passer at a high level as that weight. I think that's a fine weight for him. The one that really opened my eyes, the biggest weight after Ed Oliver that I saw on the defensive line class, Kalen Saunders, the Western Illinois tackle, 324 is a big, at just over, not even 6'1". He is 6 foot, 324. That's a horse in the middle of your defense. He was playing on the edge for Western Illinois at times there at 324. I want to see what he tests like, because if he runs, a sub-5 second 40 at 324, that's a guy who's going to, I think, move up some draft boards after how he dominated in Mobile.
We've got the grading on Western Illinois coming through. We're doing some end of the season grading, so we'll have some PFF numbers on him very, very shortly, and I think that'll help finalize our projection. But expecting, obviously, FCS high grade, and we saw what he did. Very impressive at the Senior Bowl as well. What about, do we have to talk about Kyler Murray and his weight? We've said so many things about Kyler Murray.
It was such an interesting weigh-in for the thing, because one, my takeaway was 5'10" and 1/8. The Oklahoma strength coach said he was under 5'10" at the beginning of last season. So again, he's grown since then, almost a half inch.
Stretch him out. You can stretch these guys out.
What I think it is his haircut. If you look at his haircut, his hair is sticking straight up off the top of his head.
Come on.
He has the way his He has done his hair. If you put some gel in it, put something to make it a little, starchier, it's harder to, put that ruler on top of your head lower. I think he gives himself a little inch with that haircut.
So now we've got guys who can break the height scale.
Yeah. Massaging
We've already
hands
talked
to
about
do the
massaging hands for hand size. When I was training for the combine, Mike, they taught us how to beat the vertical jump.
Yeah.
You really, because they stretch out your, they have to get your reach first.
Yeah.
And you really have to set your scapula back. Your upper back needs to be just set down as hard because they want to tug your arms up and get as big a reach as possible. You have to fight them, pull your scapula down so your reach doesn't look as far.
Yeah.
And that steals you an extra couple inches. That's why I had a 32-inch vertical when we tested. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At 275 pounds.
That's a pretty ridiculous vertical.
6'10".
But
Is that
yeah,
good?
with as long as your arms are, you could steal probably 3 or 4 inches at that point if you're really not giving your all on
That's
the reach.
why I can dunk at 6'10 with
if you couldn't dunk at 6'10", Steve, we'd have a problem.
we would. I could still dunk too, as unathletic as I am right now.
If you couldn't dunk at 6'10", that would be ridiculous.
There'll be a day where I won't be able to dunk, and that'll
true.
be sad. Hopefully it's not till I'm about 85, maybe 90. Any other position? So, yeah, there's not much else to talk about with Kyler Murray. His height did not change how well he plays football. His weight did not change how well he plays football. I don't care a whole lot about his weight.
Tiny little baby arm, 29-inch arms. That's very small. But, I mean, again, we just all knew this. This was, if you look at him, he has short arms.
Yeah.
He's short. If it's 5'9" or 5'10 and a half,
I think
I'm not
long
sure
arms make it more difficult to throw the ball anyway.
Yeah, you don't want it's the arm length for offensive tackles. There's a point where they're too long.
Yeah, you don't want long arms,
and you can't control them.
I don't know what Deshaun Watson's arm length is, but there's sometimes it feels like he's like a little lanky, and I think it affects his accuracy.
That's a hot take.
Got to look into it.
But
I've got long arms, and I couldn't throw the ball accurately.
Yeah.
Therefore, it must be difficult. How about cornerback?
Cornerback
some speed
40s.
times on our top 3 guys.
Or again, for that sort of second group of corners. So we have the top group of corners. I don't have too many speed concerns. DeAndre Baker, I'd like for him to run under 4.5 would be nice. I'm not sure he will, but I don't think he's going to be in around 4.6. I don't foresee that being a case. But I do think that sort of secondary group, Julian Love, Rock Ya-Sin, Justin Lane, Jonah Williams, all those guys.
Very important for those guys.
Very important for them, especially the bigger guys there, Lane and Jonah Williams, both around 6'2"-ish. If they can run sub 4.5 at that size, that you move up boards when you're a big, long corner who is fast.
These guys don't work out till Monday, but my predictions are our top 3 guys, Byron Murphy, DeAndre Baker, Greedy Williams. I don't think any of them break any records in the 40. I could see Murphy being really good in the agility drills. I could see the same thing with Baker. And Greedy probably just checks in with some length and looks solid all around, like you're saying. So I don't see much movement from those guys. But I am interested to see what Amani Oruwariye does from a change of direction standpoint. I think he'll have this big, long frame. Reminds me of Aqib Talib from a frame standpoint. How well will he move? And then some of those other guys that you mentioned who are in the second round. Anything else?
I think that's it.
You want to touch on?
I'm excited for this weekend. It does matter as much as people want to,
I'm back
hate
and forth
on
it. It matters and it doesn't.
There are things that matter, but it's not end all be all. It's more it matters for checking purposes, keeping yourself in check, keeping your biases inherent beforehand in check. I'd say
there's a lot of chicken or the egg with this stuff. A lot of stuff's double counted.
Yes.
Right? In a lot of this stuff should show up on tape. Sometimes you have to go back and rewatch. And a lot of it's because, say, George Kittle a couple years ago. He graded really well for us. We called him the best all-around tight end in the nation going into his last year at Iowa. And then he tested off the charts. And a lot of people hadn't properly evaluated Kittle at that point. So because they hadn't done that, they're like, well, we got to go back to the tape.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's based off of, like, have you gotten to this guy yet? If you had already evaluated Kittle, you probably saw it on film.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, this is what I saw. If you saw it properly. If you didn't evaluate him yet, it's like, man, I got to go check out George Kittle. We at least had all the grades in there, and all that athleticism had already showed up on film, and he was a good run blocker, and now he's the best tight end in the NFL last year.
Yes.
Crazy. Him and Travis Kelce. All right, Mike, good stuff. Do you want to do a quick My Guy?
Let's do a quick My Guy, because I already sort of touched on it, but A.J. Brown, Ole Miss, like I said, I had watched him 2017, great out of the slot. Watched him early part of the season, and you just so much of the production when you see a guy run a 5-yard out against off-zone coverage and turn it in 10 yards, you just think I could have gotten that. And that's so a lot of a guy's production in the slot, a lot of college production. When you see that on tape, you're just saying, like the numbers that he puts up just start getting downgraded in your mind. Downgraded. But then he moved to the outside at the end of the year, started running some real routes that you'll have to run in the NFL if you're going to draft a guy in the first round. You're going to put him out wide, and you're just going to have to beat man coverage. You're going to have to beat, those sort of coverages he's going to see. And he did that as well in my mind. Beat, Jonah Williams, a Vanderbilt corner, a handful of times. Looked very good, like I said, on the intermediate route tree. Can stop on a dime. Big fan of his game. I think he's a first-round type of talent.
Can win different ways. And then I can't remember if I already used this one, but I'm going to do it again. Our listeners can correct me if I'm repeating it. But Justin Lane, you mentioned him earlier.
You've only had one this whole year, and it's just been Justin
Lane every week. I grabbed Juwan Taylor a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. You used him twice also.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm kidding.
I've got two guys that I really like. It's the opposite of what I used to like. I used to like everybody.
Yeah.
Now I'm just really paring it down. Justin Lane, he's the only guy I like in the draft class, the Michigan State corner, former wide receiver. I definitely did this before. Yeah. It was either here or on Sirius Radio, but whatever. I still like him. Wide receiver skills, love him as a zone corner, still maybe room to improve in other areas of his game, but he graded well. Get this, overall package of good grading, room to improve. That was what William Jackson was a couple years ago. I'm not saying he is William Jackson, but William Jackson was very good in our grading, had room to improve, and then he ran sub 4.4. I don't expect that from Lane, but
I think he's fast though.
Yeah,
I think he's got in the 4.4s. I'd say if I had to guess.
And if he does that, he's another guy that we could potentially move up. That's my guy for the week. And that is our podcast for the week. Special thanks again to Lance Zierlein of NFL.com. Special thanks to Mike Renner for just being here. With your PFF
I deserve
hat.
that. I deserve a thanks every time I do decide to show up.
Well, yeah, because I just never know. Sometimes you just, you might be out on a modeling shoot or something. So just good to have you here. Have fun at the wedding this weekend.
I will.
Full report. As my parents said, don't do anything I wouldn't do.
All right. I don't know what you would do, but I probably will do stuff you wouldn't do.
Great. Probably be a good time then. All right, guys. We'll talk to you on Monday.